Christy Mazurek on the left. Michael Caputo on the right. Two Sides with Mazurek and Caputo starts now.
Sunday at noon. Thanks for stopping by. I, of course, am Christy Mazurek.
And I'm Michael Caputo.
Hey, busy week.
Very busy.
Want to give a shout out to all the political bloggers like yourself, my big fans.
I blog about you all the time, Christy. I can't resist. I can't resist.
They all can't resist. It's amazing.
It's that flaming red hair. That's what it is.
It is. Hopefully they too one day can get their own TV show and maybe give their opinions.
Well, there are 500 channels to choose from.
I know. We have plenty of opinions today to talk about. Erie County's DA bringing in big bucks and some criticism. Why some are complaining about the way Frank Sedita raises campaign cash. Meanwhile, Casino Cash is creating another hot controversy. You know those big fake checks representing New York.
I love those checks. You can't fit those in ATMs.
Changing hands this week, but so are barbs between both sides of the continued debate. Let's talk native host John Kane and political operative Steve Pigeon here to chat about all the state issues, election day dilemmas. Before we voters cast our ballots, many blunders going on surrounding this year's campaign trail. Erie County's Republican Chair Nick Langworthy is here. And all those union contract fights have not cleared up, some not even close, and that will affect, who might be elected for the next few years. Mike Hoffert, our local president of the AFL-CIO, also joining us. So we got a busy show.
Yeah,
busy show. Out of the gate, obviously you saw the story, Frank Sedita coming under fire for maybe getting some donations from his staffers. But, I think this is much to do about nothing.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the way
really,
business is done. It's not just
Lord.
done this way in Buffalo. It's done everywhere else. Ugh. I mean, they value their work with their boss. And also, by the way, Frank Sedita, beyond reproach. They can go out there and put his name on the front page of the Buffalo News, and everybody in Buffalo knows that he's not the kind of guy that's going to go out there and shake down his employees. It's ridiculous.
That's right. But it might sell papers.
Well,
we do a lot of stuff with the Buffalo News, but I'm just calling foul on that one.
Yeah,
foul
I
on
think
that.
So too. Absolutely.
Some people calling foul on what the governor is or is not doing. That's a weekly thing, especially for you folks on the GOP side.
He's one of our favorite
you can't wait.
targets.
You can't wait. But he did sign in over 130 bills into law, vetoing about a handful, plugging right along, making a couple of stops in Western New York. I mean, he has been all over Buffalo.
Yeah, you'd never imagine that he would have a political reason to do that, would you?
Not
just because we just don't like him around here.
Hey, and obviously this casino cash issue has always been part of a debate. John Kane, Steve Pigeon, join us now. Your thoughts? I mean, obviously the big check in hand, it was transferred in Buffalo, it was transferred in Salamanca, it was transferred in Niagara Falls.
Santa Cuomo's come to town.
John, your thoughts out of the gate?
Well, let's be clear. That's money leaving Western New York. And I think that's what the people here have to really appreciate is that when these dollars leave Western New York, they're gone. And very little of it's coming back. That's not to say anything about the monies that did stay with Niagara Falls and Salamanca and Buffalo. It was always the Seneca's position, and frankly, I've always taken the same position, that the Seneca Nation always wanted to do right by Western New York. But it's the state that violated the exclusivities provision of the compact in the first place, and frankly, I still think that the Senecas didn't play as strong a hand as they could have when it came to giving up this money, not only in the past out of this escrow account, but even negotiating what they do going forward in terms of these revenue payments.
Well, I'll tell you, what I've seen on some of the coverage is that the Senecas walked away with it, and the state really kind of lost out. Steve, what do you have to say to that criticism?
Well, here you go. Here's why it was a good deal. Because on the one hand, you say the Senecas could have done better, and then there's other people here saying that the state could have done better.
Right. You didn't make anybody happy, so clearly it was a good deal.
So since nobody was entirely claimed the victor, I think that's the sign of a good compromise and a good deal. And it was a good deal for Western New York, because not only did the money come into Buffalo, Salamanca, and Niagara Falls, but even the $209 million that the Senecas were able to maintain for their nation, which I think was a tribute to Barry Snyder, that I thought that was a very good deal for them. But that money also stays in Western New York. Sometimes people forget that the Seneca Nation is one of the biggest employers in Western New York. It's been a very good corporate citizen as well as a sovereign nation in our area. And there's, the interaction between the Senecas and all of Western New York has been a very positive one over time. And the fact that that $209 million, that's also staying in Western New York. And just one thing, John, is that when you say the money's leaving, I think there's a fair case for Niagara Falls to say that with the state park and the parking lots and the Maid of the Mist and all of those things, that they haven't worked for the city, that the state needs to leave more for the attraction. But it is true, and you cannot argue with the statistics, that in upstate New York and in Western New York, we get more back from the state in terms of state spending than we send out in taxes. That's true for all of upstate. It's been true, unfortunately, for the last few years, that we've become more dependent on the government because the economy here has been not keeping up since the 1960s and 1970s with the rest of the nation. We see that turning around now. We see progress here. We see companies moving here. We see building cranes in downtown Buffalo. So I think we're going in the right direction. And this deal that the governor made with the Senecas, I think, is good both for the Seneca Nation and for New York State and for Western New York. It also allowed the racinos to continue to operate, which is more revenue for the state. Yet it also took away any unfair advantage that the racinos, by advertising his casinos, might take from the exclusivity of the compact.
John,
so I think it was a fair compromise that worked for both parties.
I want to hear what John has to say about
that. John is chomping at the bit right now.
Tell us what you're thinking on this.
Well, I don't know how.
It's usually me going after Steve. It's your turn.
Well, it's really kind of crazy when you consider that these racetrack casinos have pulled in almost $1 billion in the last 4 years alone. And that is specifically taking market share away from what was supposed to be the protected market share that the Senecas were paying for. They were paying 25% of their revenue of their casino slot machine drop. For what? So the state could build up their own slot parlors, and whether they call them slot parlors or not, and the fact that they've been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years you can't put the smoke back in the bottle. It's really insane to suggest that turning over $350 million, and Steve, you're mixing up pockets full of money. There's no question that the state should have been supporting the tourism in Niagara Falls, and it shouldn't be coming out of this $350 million. And if you're going to sit there and say, yeah, $209 million is staying in Western New York, well, another $350 million should have stayed in Western New York, and the Senecas would be diversifying their economies, because let's face it, casinos aren't going to be the answer for the state as they go forward. This is all about pulling money in from a 50-mile radius. This isn't bringing outside money into an area. And the whole pitch that the government's making
have shown
about
there's enough
developing
market share here for more than one casino. And as a matter of fact, when you get more activity, more people come in. Look at Las Vegas. Look at anywhere else. Look at why is Big Burger King across the street from McDonald's.
Then the Senecas should be paying. The Senecas should be paying 25% to the state for something that they're not getting. They're not getting an exclusivity. So why are they paying 25%? It's that simple.
Hey, we're just kind of sitting here. There's us two over here too. So, okay, gentlemen, but what can you say about, like, both sides kind of did call each other's bluff? I mean, we've had on numerous occasions Henry Wojtaszek coming here saying, no, we didn't violate the compact. Obviously, John, you've been outspoken saying the state did violate the compact. And now the governor admits they did.
And if we wouldn't have had an agreement, Christy, this would have been going on in arbitration and going on in court, and it would have been a drag on both the state and the Seneca Nation.
Well, there's no question Seneca Nation. They were just putting money aside.
This was a good deal for the Seneca Nation. They also had to worry about their compact renewal. They're also in a position where they can expand.
Well, it's interesting. So they got to pay the state to ensure that they're not going to have their compact renewed by the state. This is, I mean, that's a whole other set of bribery issues.
No, that's not another set of bribery.
Why would the state? The Senecas shouldn't have to pay 25% of the slot drop just so they can get their compact renewed in 2016. And that's the premise that really is why this thing went forward the way it did. There's no way they should have been extorted for 25% just to have their compact renewed.
There's no extortion here.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to a theater near you.
They're given a concession for the state to allow to operate. They were given a concession to the state to allow to
No, they don't need the state. They weren't allowed to operate. There's federal law that
it takes
created
both
that.
sides to give something to have a good agreement.
Let's just
and that's
settle
what
this right
happened.
here. The one thing we all know, and we all agree, we could stop hearing about this any day now. Any day now. It would be nice to move on to other topics.
Hey, that's exactly what we're going to do. Thanks so much, Steve Pigeon, John Kane, for stopping by Two Sides. Stay right there. We'll be right back.
Views and opinions expressed on Two Sides do not necessarily reflect those of this station or its parent company. WGRZ does not knowingly broadcast false information and may not be held liable for the views expressed on this program.